Welcome back to the MUSB Dugout, everyone. I'm Scott Hall, and today I am joined by a member of the class of 2019, Abigail Tolbert. Now, Abby grew up right down the road from Huntington in Barboursville, went from just 2 appearances in her first 2 seasons to becoming the ace in the circle and helping her hometown team reach the Conference USA title game. Abby, how are you doing?
I am well, Scott. How are you?
I'm doing good. Glad to see you.
You too.
Well, now I know it hasn't been that long since you hung up your cleats for the last time, but let everyone know what you've been up to here lately.
Well, since I stopped playing softball that following fall, I started medical school. So I'm now in my 2nd year of medical school, even though it seems like we haven't had a softball season since I quit, really. Or not quit, but finished. So I feel like I'm still like the last graduating team, which gave me like more healing time, I feel like. But anyway, I've been in medical school for the past 2 years, and that sure didn't stop, even though COVID stopped other things.
How has that been, now being in medical school?
With COVID or just medical school in general?
Well, I kind of, honestly, with any of it, really.
Medical school in itself was a huge adjustment. Just it took as much as my time up as softball did. It was just a different situation. Rather than being physically tired, I'm mentally tired, which is almost worse because you can't do anything other than go to sleep. Physically, you can like move forward because you still have your mind and mental strength and mentality. But when your mentality is gone, then you're left with nothing because your body can't do a whole lot without your mind. So that was a huge adjustment in itself, learning to balance and the work that it takes for medical school. With COVID, all of our classes are online, but that doesn't really affect us too much because we're still getting the lectures. They're just online, so it's a little bit more up to us as like the pace and like making sure we stay up with the pace and what the teachers are doing. But it affects us with like patient encounters and physical exams, but like lecture wise and like learning the book work, it doesn't really affect us too much.
Now, with your medical degree, what are you going to be trying to do with that as you go further into your future?
So this year I'll take a test at the end of this year, and I'll get a number score, and that'll determine how compatible I am for different residency programs and different specialties, and then I'll apply to the specialties that I'm competitive in. But as of right now, I don't know enough to say I definitely want to do this, but I'm leaning towards being an OBGYN. Family is important to me, and with that, you get a partial 8 to 5 job, even though there is some surgeries in there, which I think that I like surgery. So it's that's kind of what I want to do without getting the full surgeon lifestyle. But ultimately, it depends on my STEP score at the end of this year.
Okay. All right. Well, definitely good luck with all of that.
Thank you.
Quite the test for you, but you're capable of it. I believe that. Let's go back to your childhood, growing up here in herd country. What are your earliest memories of martial sports just in general? And then, of course, your earliest memories of martial softball.
Well, when I was in 4th and 5th grade, I actually went to martial basketball camps. I don't remember going to softball camps. I went to the basketball camps because my dad played basketball, so he wanted his girls to play basketball. So I went to the basketball camps, and I remember after the basketball camps, my dad would take me to Subway on Route 60, and that was kind of like what we did. My earliest memory of martial softball was probably not till I was like more so like travel ball, starting the recruiting process, and then I pay attention to it more. Because I just feel like that's when I got more around it. I was definitely going to camps when I was playing travel ball and things, but like youth-wise, I was in the basketball camps, not the softball camps.
Well, so when did you start playing softball then?
Well, I played t-ball and everything, but I played basketball and softball, Little League softball. I played basketball in like 4th and 5th grade up through high school, and then high school I decided to only play softball and do travel ball and like put my effort towards there because it was just too much to go from season to season to season and do travel ball. So high school, I didn't like make that decision, but I played softball since T-ball, but for whatever reason, I just remember the Marshall basketball games.
Well, that's all right. I mean, those were the camps that you were going to when you were younger, so of course, those would be the players that you remember.
Right.
Did you happen to have any favorite players, whether they were Marshall basketball or even Marshall softball?
Well, funny story, actually. One of my favorite players was Alyssa Hammond because she was very girly in the basketball team. She always had her nails done and her makeup on and everything, and I always thought she was really pretty. And it turns out Hunter, my fiance's sister, is her best friend, so now we're friends. And so it's really cool how life comes for full circle that way, because I really looked up to her. I have a signed shirt with her name on it. And now I'm like, oh, you're like, we're friends now. So that's really cool.
Well, that's pretty good. I definitely remember her. I remember being able to call some of the games that she was a part of. So that's pretty good. But now, when did you start going then to the Marshall softball camps? Was it just once you were in high school and doing travel ball? Because
Yeah,
I
I think
remember seeing you come to camp before.
Yeah, I think more so when I was in high school and I knew like softball is what I wanted to do and what I was going to commit my time to. Then I got more serious about going to camps and things, like college softball camps in general. So I would think I would think that it was more so when I got into high school, knowing like what I wanted to do.
Now, as far as being recruited, were you being recruited by other schools, or did you always just kind of have your eyes set on Marshall?
Well, I was being recruited by smaller schools, but I didn't really do the whole recruiting process very well, I think, and I didn't give it time to develop because I also committed early and before high school softball season, my junior year of high school. So I committed early and didn't really give anything a chance. But that was because my sophomore year of high school, I played for Gold Coast Hurricanes out of Florida, and I would be here at home for a week, and then I would travel for a week out west and meet them at the tournaments. And so I was here a week, away a week, and I decided I do not like this at all. I do not want to be away from my family. I would rather represent my hometown and pour my heart into that because that's where my heart is. So that was when that decision was made. So when I got an offer to come to Marshall, I was like, okay, done. We're not going any further. So I had some smaller schools looking at me, but based off my experience with the summer after my sophomore year, I was like, I'm not going away. That was horrible. So it was a good experience. I learned a lot. I grew in softball, but I was like, no thanks.
Well, you did already talk before about how big family is to you, and that's one of the reasons why you're choosing the possible career path that you might be going with here. But
right.
Okay, you committed really early, but did you end up still having your official visit with Marshall?
Yes. So that seems like forever ago. Yeah, and I had my official visit with all the girls that I came in with. I think only one girl out of our group didn't end up coming, but like Hayden was on my official visit. I think Tink was on my official visit. So I came in with those girls. I think Abby Estrada had a different official visit, but I definitely remember Hayden. I'm pretty sure Tink was there. So that's also pretty cool looking back that I actually did come in with the girls that I went on my official visit with.
So what do you remember though from that recruiting trip? I mean, for you, it's not quite like some other people where you go on this long trip, you're going to a place that you're not familiar with at all. You were obviously familiar with Marshall, but what was it like still coming here and getting to then really meet the coaches and be around the players?
I'm not sure that I'd ever been on the football field. So we went to a football game. And so like that, I think that was the first time I actually been on the football field, and I was experiencing that. And that was super cool because at that time, that was a super cool thing to do. So I got to do that, and I was like, wow, this Marshall is so cool. Let's see. So, Coach Stan had us do a scavenger hunt, which I'm pretty sure was really hot. It might have been hot. I actually don't remember, but I know that we did a scavenger hunt and we were like running around. I think I went to Zirkle's dorm because Zirkle and for those who don't know, Zirkle and I went to high school together, and we've been friends for a really long time. So I'd actually been in their dorms and things before because I would hang out with Zirkle or like come say hi or something. But that I think I stayed in Zirkle's dorm because they made Zirkle my like mentee person, which was cool because we were already friends and things. But so we check out the dorms, and mostly I remember going to the football game. It's really weird how your memory just like fades as you get older. Like I should so remember that like it was yesterday, but I don't.
Well, no, that's all right. I mean, a lot of times in these interviews that I've done, talking to some of these players, they're even surprised at some things like, gosh, how come I don't remember that? And it's like, well, you're not going to remember every little detail. Some things will always kind of stick out in your memory a bit. But, well, and you mentioned Zirkle there. Was there also just a little bit more of a push on you for Marshall, seeing as how your high school coach was Jeannie Lunsford? She played here. You were teammates with Morgan Zirkle and Morgan Kelly and Jordan Cauliflower. So was there kind of just a little bit more of a push for the green and white for you?
Yeah, I mean, that definitely helped with like comfort because I already knew some of the girls going in. I actually knew quite a bit of girls actually, like you said, Jordan and Morgan Kelly and Morgan Zirkle. I'd played against Alyssa before because she went to Lincoln County, but I didn't know Alyssa, but I knew that she was from around here. So that definitely helped with the comfort and like being a freshman, knowing the upperclassmen, not just from an official visit, but because I actually knew them and had went to school with them and played with them before. So that was cool.
Good. Okay. So now describe your first semester of college. How was your adjustment period?
So this is actually a little funny because when Zirkle got to Marshall, I would like try to do her workouts with her. And things so that I would feel prepared. But the truth is that nothing is going to prepare you for that. And like, it's just not. Yeah. So while I had all great intentions, if you've never done a Division I like weightlifting or like practice before, it's way faster speed than your travel softball ever thought about being. So while it's good to like try to practice at that level until you have someone that actually knows or like is like making you go faster, doing a workout by yourself is a lot slower than what your workouts with your team will be. But my like fault, I just have a work ethic to like work hard and like just that just kind of instilled in me is to work hard regardless. So it was a large adjustment with the speed of things mostly. And it also depends on like who your weight coaches are and who your head coach is, depending on speed as well. But like Coach Stanton was very like with it. And at the time, oh gosh, do you remember who the weight coach was? I think he's at Georgia now. Georgie, it was Georgie. But everything was like
come and gone.
Yeah, but it was Georgie and Peeper, and everything was like fast paced. And actually, one of the most horrible things that's ingrained in my memory, it's not that horrible, but it was horrible to go through at the time, was one of our like herd challenges was we had to do a wall sit while a teammate pushed a sled that had weight on it so many yards, and we had to keep that sit with a 45-pound plate on our legs while each player did that, and we couldn't get up until they were done. I think I was in actual tears, but that was like ingrained. That was like probably one of my most memorable parts of my freshman year because I was in actual pain from a wall sit. But
I remember seeing some of the teams go through that beforehand, before you got there. So that's actually a workout I do remember too. Now, right before your freshman season is about to start, the team unfortunately goes through a hard time with the passing of Emileigh Cooper. Now, play with her. But obviously being from around here, you knew who she was. You said you had already come and hung out with Zirkle before, so you had met her. Now, just what do you remember from that emotional time?
I met Cooper a few times. I wasn't close with her, but I actually met her that Halloween before that happened. She was dressed up as Orange is the New Black character and spot on costume. So I met her briefly at that period, but again, I didn't know her very well. For me, when that all happened, it wasn't like, obviously that's devastating and super like heartbreaking. My emotions and my classmates' emotions, other than like meeting her briefly, more so came because we saw the heartbreak and the teammates that we had there and cared about, and we knew how much we cared about them, and like seeing their heartbreak that way, like as a teammate, like when that happens to your teammate, if you're an actual teammate, them getting hurt is like you getting hurt. So it was more, you saw their reaction in their face and their just brokenheartedness, and you just felt like that was your sister too. Like that was like, when that happened to my teammates who had played with her, it was like it happened to me because I cared so much for my teammates. And I know that like I didn't know Emileigh, and I didn't feel the emotions that they felt from knowing her so closely, but my heart broke for my teammates because I felt like they are my sisters, and they do have a piece of me with just being part of Marshall softball. And so that's where my emotion and my just heartbreak and sadness, but now like rejoicing Emileigh's life, remembering her, showing the younger classmen like who she was, what she was about, what Marshall softball is about. Because if there's any way to describe Marshall softball, would be the passion that Emileigh put behind the videos that you'll see, like her cheers and her huddles and things. Like that's Marshall softball. And so that's even though that was a sad time, it's fun to show the younger girls what that is and what that means and how much it means even now.
Well, and talking too, just like you said, how you feel the heartbreak from your teammates. I mean, that was something that Coach Louis Burnt had started at the beginning of the program, and Coach Shondestin had kept going, is just really that family atmosphere. And so, like you said, that really does end up hitting you, even though you didn't know her. It's just
Right.
seeing your teammates who knew her and who cared about her and all that. So definitely a difficult time. But talk about going down and playing all the way down in Troy that Sunday from just what was really a completely draining week for the entire team. And then also getting to see your classmate, Brianna Dice, come through a couple of times, and the whole team going berserk over it.
Yeah, I felt that was a special weekend in general, and the whole team knew that Emileigh was with us, and all those games, from what I remember, were like close, especially with Alabama, and they were incredible games, and I definitely think that gave us a little push and like an extra. I mean, in spirit, Emileigh was there; she was rooting for us, and but it, like once we left there, I'm pretty sure Coach Stanton was like, okay, like that's over, this is what we have, and we all knew that as well. And if there was anything Emileigh would want, it wouldn't be for us to be upset and like moping around when we're about to play like Alabama and big name teams. She would want us to have the fire that she had, that she always showed. So and being in such an incredible stadium with such a great opportunity, Emileigh would want us to represent her by showing her fire, not by being like, oh, we lost a teammate. She'd want us to show the fire that she had.
Describe your freshman season as you only had just the one appearance, one inning, but it was against number 14 Tennessee. And, how did it feel to also get your first career strikeout? And on Lexi Overstreet, someone who went on to play in the NPF in the professional ranks.
Tolbert gets the sign from McCord. Glove slap. Next pitch taken. Strike three. Abigail Tolbert with her first career strikeout in a Thundering Herd uniform as she gets Overstreet to take strike three and go down for the first out of the inning.
Well, so my freshman year, I worked super hard, but I wasn't ready. I wasn't like ready on the mound, and I didn't know that at the time, but after the year I knew that. But also just like a lesson learned for me that I try to tell that I can, so that other people don't make the same mistake, is that like the mentality of going in, like when I didn't get an opportunity, I didn't understand, like that year I didn't have a great mentality about it, and I could have probably been a better teammate. And that's the mindset that I changed going into my sophomore year, was that regardless of what happened, I was going to be a great teammate. But so I didn't understand not getting the opportunities that I thought I would get, but that was also a sense of immaturity, I think. But getting to play at Tennessee, it was bittersweet, but I also remember that it was freezing cold, and my hands and feet were numb, and they're like, Tolbert, go get ready, and I'm like, I'm an ice cube right now, but okay. But so, and I think we were kind of losing bad. I know we were kind of losing bad. So at the time I was like, okay, it can't get much worse. So what am I gonna do? So when we went in the huddle, they were like, come on, Tolbert, just throw it in there. It can't get much worse than this. And I was like, you know what? You're right. So, I mean, that was fun because there was no pressure. I wasn't going to be the hero, and I don't know what the score was, but I think it was pretty up there. So, I was like, might as well just have some fun. So that didn't end up very great, but it was a start. it was a start.
Everything has to start somewhere, right? And it's right there against number 14 Tennessee.
Yeah, and I do remember that game because they had the older people that were dressed up as Thing 1 and Thing 2 in the orange and blue. Yep, still remember those cheers. That left an impression. Not forgetting that. Might forget other things, but not forgetting those.
Well, and you got to experience that again your junior season when we played them down in Clearwater, but that was a whole nother trip as well. But, okay, so you talked about your mentality change as far going into your sophomore year as far as, okay, no matter what happens, I'm going to be a better teammate. Was there any other change for you as well as far as obviously still trying to work hard, still trying to see if you can earn that time getting in on the field?
So my mentality definitely went from being mad about not getting an opportunity to being sophomore year, I knew I was ready. I just needed the coaches to believe in me and to give me an opportunity to have a spot. And even though that didn't come that year, and if I wasn't playing, I was doing a workout in the dugout, and I'd go to the coaches and probably annoyed them a little bit with hey, what can I do better? What do I need to do? And that kind of thing. And I was also there for my teammates, if they needed something from me, and I was just trying to push them and help them where I could, even though I wasn't playing. And with that mindset, I was way happier. Being mad about not getting to play also made me miserable, so it wasn't beneficial in any aspect of my life or the game or my teammates. It didn't help anyone. So I knew from every standpoint that I had to switch my mindset. But with that, I knew that I was ready for the opportunity. My big breakthrough with pitching came between my sophomore and junior year. I changed a little bit of my form, which people are really nervous about changing their form even in high school. And I literally changed my form from sophomore to junior year. So I'm a big advocate of challenging yourself, to get better, even if it's a little bit uncomfortable, because with that I gained probably 5 miles an hour or something, something crazy unheard of that doesn't happen. But it was worth it. And so I think just want to grow, even if it's uncomfortable for a second, you're not going to get, if you're not getting better with what you're doing, then what's the point? I mean, you should want to be uncomfortable at that point, because you're not getting better at what you're doing, so it doesn't make sense for you to keep doing it. So that was kind of my thought. I was I need to figure out something if I'm going to play, because at the time I thought Coach Stanton was still going to be there, and I was I need to make a change to make sure that I get an opportunity this year. So.
Well, and we'll get to, leading into your junior year here in just a moment, but I still talk a little bit about going through that sophomore year where 17-game winning streak, the team is breaking records, the team is getting ranked. I just talk about that for a moment.
Okay, so that also made it easier to be happy, but you could also look at it in a way of oh, we're dominating so much, why am I not getting the opportunity? So there's still an aspect of, if you want to be negative, you can be, but it makes you unhappy as well. So when I talk to girls, I try to tell them that what I went through, so that they'll have a positive outlook because that benefits you and your teammates more. Like, it was so much fun going to Kentucky and cheering on my teammates. Like, I didn't play at all, but I had the time of my life cheering for them and climbing over the dugouts and cheering and getting in trouble for being on top of the dugout. But like, that was, but I mean, but when Abby Estrada hit the gap and we scored and we went to the, what, I don't know, it's all running together. But anyways, like, I didn't play at all, but I had like the time of my life cheering my friends on. So it was also like, I didn't have like, I wasn't being proud. I mean, I guess I was proud of myself just for being a teammate, but I was so proud of the people that I cared about that it didn't matter that I wasn't playing. I mean, it did matter, but like, it didn't matter to make me miserable, you know, like, it mattered that my teammates, the people that I like get bruises and like sweat it out and like grind it out for, were like doing well. And then ultimately we were all doing well and getting better and having the experiences that we were having and getting ranked and all that.
Well, we definitely have plenty of photos from regionals of you climbing up over on the fence, especially you and Chloe. I'm thinking a few of them.
Yeah.
Like climbing up and looking back over at the crowd and, you know, for everybody. And I always love seeing that stuff because that's another one that Marshall throughout history has been that team. They've been loud. They've been, you know, just present in everything. So those are just classic photos to me. But so now let's go ahead and jump ahead a little bit here then. So a change does come your way. You talked about, you know, thinking, okay, Coach Stanton's going to be here. What do I need to do to try and get them to notice me, to let me have this opportunity? So what were you thinking when you found out that you were getting a brand new coaching staff?
Well, I did not know. So I was on my way to, I remember this like it was yesterday. I was on my way to Kings Island with another couple that are mine and Hunter's friends. And Coach Stanton calls me. I'm like, oh, Coach Stanton's calling me. Like, this is weird. It's middle of summer. Like, I don't know. Maybe she want me to babysit. Not sure. I don't know. So anyway, because sometimes I would babysit JoJo and the girls. And so she calls me. She's like, hey, Tolbert, what's up? And I'm just like, nothing, going to Kings Island. She's like, well, I just wanted to let you know that I've taken a position somewhere else. I think that she said like later in the week we would find out where, but she just wanted us to know that she wasn't going to be coaching there before it got out in the media, which was very nice. She was like, do you have any questions? And I'm like, no, like, I'm speechless. Like, I don't know what questions to ask because this was like the last thing in the world that I ever thought she was going to say to me. So I'm like, no, because I don't know what else to say. And she's like, okay, well, just let me know. Like, you can text me, call me, whatever, if you have any questions. So it was very nice in the way that she did it and very thoughtful. But when she called me, I was just like dumbstruck. Like, I had no idea what to say. But yeah, that was how that went. And I was just like so shocked for the first couple days.
Well, did you see this, though, as an opportunity for you to now step up? Because now you have a completely different coaching staff, and it's your chance to now impress somebody brand new.
Right. Well, so after I got over like what just happened, I told my parents, and they were like, Abby, this is this is a new opportunity for you. I don't remember if I was, I would say that I was probably already finding a new way to do things because at the time I thought Coach Stan was going to be there. And I'm pretty sure we didn't know, correct me if I'm wrong, till like the end-ish of summer. Is that right? Like, we didn't have a ton of time.
Well, I want to say it was probably at least maybe in either end of June or into July. There was definitely some time in between there. It wasn't like Coach Stanton left and then the hire was made right away. There was definitely a little bit of time in there.
Because they hired kind of soon to us starting. Like, we didn't know who our coach was for a while, I think. So, but anyway, but I was like in the process of learning a new, not completely new, but changing how I was pitching anyway. But my dad was like, this is a new opportunity for you. And also like going into that fall, I was getting more opportunities. And I'd been a leader off the field, but I'd never been a leader on the field before because, like you said, I had limited field experience. But I vividly remember after our last fall ball game, my dad took me. Well, we were like talking before he left from the field, and he was like, "Abby, do you remember how I was always asking you if you wanted to transfer, if you wanted to look into something else, and you always told me no. God wanted you here, and you prayed about it, and you really just thought that God wanted you here." He's like, "You just need to remember that, and remember that you're here because God wants you here. You're not on the mound by yourself. You're not doing this on your own. You're doing this because this is where God wanted you, and you've been praying about it, and now it's here. And you need to have confidence in that and not just depend on yourself." And that was when it switched for me. That was when I was like, okay, I know I'm supposed to be here. I know that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And that like conversation means so much to me, and I remember it like it was a few minutes ago because it did mean so much to me. And I feel like that conversation really is what kind of changed my career path, because I knew that I wasn't doing it by myself.
Well, and the team was looking for some new leaders because of losing Morgan Zirkle, Jordan Dixon, who obviously the same position as you, and Shaylin Braxton. So they were looking for somebody to really step up, and that was a good time for you to be able to do that. Now, just how much work then did you really put into going into your junior year? You've already talked about pretty much just changing up your form, got some new speed out of it, which is great. But just really, how much work did you put into that to kind of say, okay, yes, I am here. God does want me here, and I want to be a part of this, and I really want to do it.
Well, if there's anything that's been instilled in me, it's work ethic, and I'll credit my dad for that because he works himself to death, and I feel like with like just in general his job and everything, and I feel like that is just genetically ingrained in me, and when I want something, that's just what I do. And my work, like from sophomore to junior year, I would try to pitch almost every day, because I felt like if I didn't pitch every day, if I took a day or two off, then it's hard to get started. It's easier for me to work every day and get in that routine. However, there is a point where you get fatigued and you need a break, and that's a whole different story. I had to learn a little bit of a balance instead of just, I'm pretty good at like putting my mind aside of like what I want to do and just making myself do it. That also comes with Division I sports. You kind of just turn off the emotions and you just kind of do what you're told to finish whatever the task is for your team. But I grinded it out. Like I knew that I was going to have to get this, and I would be lying if I said that I didn't break down crying like, oh my gosh, Dad, this is not going to work. I don't want to do this. I'm just going to revert back to what I was doing. So there was like moments of frustration. My career, if anything, it's not butterflies and rainbows, which I kind of feel like at the end of my career, that's what everyone was seeing. But I'm like, wait a second, look at the past, like even in high school, like it was not butterflies and rainbows, but I'm glad that you're seeing that now. But anyway, so like I grinded it out to get there. It was not an easy stroll in the park, like, oh, I'm going to change my form and it's going to be wonderful. I was battle. I cried about it.
Did you feel then when you found out that you were getting the ball in that first start of the year and against number 13 Auburn?
Well, so I think, I don't want this to sound bad, but I was expecting it because I felt like I deserved it. And I don't mean that in any cocky or overconfident way, but I just felt like I was ready to lead. And even if my performance didn't necessarily show it at that time, I knew that that's what I wanted ultimately, and that I was going to be disappointed if I wasn't handed the ball. Yeah, but I don't mean that in any like overconfident or cocky way. I just felt like that was what I was meant to do.
Well, you've been putting in the work and everything. So here it was, and you go from, well, you pitched against number 14 Tennessee, now you get number 13 Auburn. Kind of a nice little combination there for you. But, you know, talk about just getting into that junior year. You're getting more innings and everything because this is now the time that everybody really got to see that Abigail Tolbert fist pump on recording strikeouts and all of that excitement and everything. And everybody was loving it.
Winds and delivers. Swing and a miss. Abigail Tolbert gets the strikeout. Vaughn heads back to the dugout, and Marshall gets the win 7-5 in game 2.
I didn't plan to do that. It just kind of happened. And I just kind of got so excited after strikeouts that it just happened every time. But it wasn't ever like, I never thought, oh, when I get a strikeout, I'm going to have a fist pump and it's going to be exciting. Like, it just kind of happened. And then I was like, oh, this is just like my absent-minded reaction when good things happen. But then the players fed off it and it turned into like good energy on the field. It made everything more fun. And when you're playing fun, you're playing loose, and then every good things happen. So it turned into being a really great thing, but there was not a time in my mentality when I thought I should fist pump after strikeout. Like, that was never, ever a thought.
So that really didn't come from anywhere. You didn't see anybody else do it and think, yeah, I'm going to do it. Just basically, it's like your body just kind of did it.
That was my heart and soul being like, okay, I've worked this hard. This is my heart. And my heart wanted to fist pump. So we fist pumped because I was so little Abby was so thrilled inside for what now Abby was doing that it just like overcame whatever thought process was going on. I think like, I really just think that happened because of how much I had worked and loved what I was doing. It was definitely not ever planned, or no one thought like, or no one ever said, hey, this is a good idea if you're to do this. I really just think that's showing my softball heart.
I love it. That's fantastic. I still miss seeing those every time when I get to go watch an old clip and see that. And I love it. I miss that so much. But
Me too. I'm actually a little bit thankful for COVID because it gave me a little bit more of time for healing, because when they've played, I think when they played their first actual game after I left, I sat in my bedroom floor and cried, like boo-hoo cried, like uglily cried, like all the snot and everything, like boo-hoo. And then the fall ball game, I didn't go to the first one. I didn't know if I could handle it, but I ended up going to a fall ball game. One of the fall ball games the year after I graduated, and the little old men that sit in the front, they were like, Abby, we missed you. And Coach Smith's dad was like, you're our hero, and like immediate tears. Like, I had to run to the bathroom, and these little girls looked at me and they're like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah. And I'm again boo-hooing, and I like look at my dad, and my dad had tears in his eyes, and that was just like, it was just like, I'm proud of like everything that happened. I wouldn't take a single moment of it back, but like going back for the first time was like a whole wave of emotions, especially with those little old men that like always get there hours before the game.
Yep.
And then they like said that, and I was just like, oh, this was my heart for so long. It still is, but like it's like a different life almost now. So
yeah, well, I had still good memories. But now, how did it feel pitching in that game, going back to your junior year, in that game against James Madison, where this team is receiving votes in the top 25? You're getting to do this right in front of your hometown crowd at Dot Hicks Field. I mean, how did that game feel for you?
was one of the first games that I realized how important mental training was and mindset was. I remember we had talked about mindset briefly, and I just really bought into it because I needed to take nervousness out of it and just be like a leader, because I was still working on being a leader on the field, and being consistent, like performing consistently. And I feel like that was the first game that I was doing my mental training correctly and just performing and not overthinking or not over trying and just doing it. And so Coach Steele would always ask me like what I was doing in that game, but like that game almost felt like I was in a trance a little bit, because there was no thought of it. It was just like, I'm doing this and I'm calm and this is happening. Like when I think back to that game, I was just so calm. Like I just was doing my mental training and I was just throwing, and there was no pressure. There was nothing else going on. So that was, as I continued to grow as a pitcher, I realized how important mental training was. And I think that also helped me develop my senior year, and why I continued to get better is because I took the pressure, the emotions, and everything out of it and just focused on my mental training and focused on being, I guess that's what they would refer to as tunnel vision. But it's not actually being in a tunnel, like you're still aware of everything, but you just are taking the humanistic emotions and pressure out of it, and you're just playing.
Well, so many athletes talk about when they hit the zone and how they feel like you said, you're not even really thinking, you're just doing it. And so maybe that was where it started right for you, getting in the zone. So, but now, okay, so your junior year comes to a close, a whole lot more time on the field, going from just one inning in your first 2 years and one pinch running outing as well against Middle year, but up to 160 innings. So now, what were you thinking entering that summer before everything changed again?
Well, my thought process was I need to polish this, because like I said, my performances weren't as consistent as they needed to be. And I was still sharing mound time more so than I wanted. I guess you can call it greedy, but like I wanted the mound. Like I wanted to be the person every game that they gave the ball to. So I more or less thought I'm okay with my speed. Like, of course you always want to get faster, but I was like, I need to throw consistently well. And I would also say that like I wasn't ever the best bullpen pitcher. Like KK would beat me all the time, but I was the gamer. Like when a game came, I turned it on, and I would pitch against anyone in a game because I knew that I was going to do better at the games. But like Hayden will tell you, the catchers will tell you, I'm not the best bullpen pitcher. Like I pitch well. Like I'll have good bullpens, and I work hard in the bullpens. I'm not like giving myself an excuse, but like I call myself a gamer because bullpens are definitely not ever my strong suit. And I think that that's kind of what also hurt me my freshman and sophomore years, because like they didn't know me then. So it was like what they saw in the bullpen is what they would expect to see in the game, which at that point, maybe it wasn't what they were going to see in the game. I don't know. But like even as I got better and even as I got more game time, I was still a gamer. My bullpens were good, but they weren't all, but like if we played a game, KK probably beat me, but I turned it on in the games. I didn't turn it off at practice. It just wasn't always there.
Now, did any of this, thought process at all change when you found out you were going to be playing for your third different coaching staff?
Well, at that point, I didn't really know what to think, because the way we found out about all that was a little bit different, and it was just a whole. I knew that I had no control. I knew that I had an opportunity. Like I had pitched, I had some more field experience, and I was thankful for that. And I didn't really know what to expect at this point. So I just knew that I needed to polish what I had and come in as ready as possible and not take for granted just because I had a few opportunities. That didn't necessarily mean that I was going to get the ball again, and I had to prove to this new coaching staff that I deserved the ball. Because I knew that they were coming in with a clean slate, and to them, no one had a spot. So I knew that I had to prove to them that I wanted the ball every game for every start, and that I was going to be their leader. And that's just kind of the mindset I went in with.
Okay. Now, when I talked to Abigail Harder, she talked about having 3 different pitching coaches during her time. Your class had 3 different staffs to deal with.
Yeah.
Your all's group went through so much in your 4 years together. But now, how was the experience of traveling down to Australia and getting to play there a little bit over that summer?
First, that was a incredible experience just to get to go to Australia in general. But I also got to go with 2 of my teammates and play softball there. And when you go to Australia and you play softball for the United States, they think you are the coolest thing that has ever set foot there. Just because they know that USA softball is a really big deal. So everyone, even if they were playing games, they were watching your games. And we actually got to play against the Washington pitcher, Gabby. I think that her name's Gabby. I'm not sure. She's a really tall, redheaded girl, played for Washington.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So we played against her because she's from Australia. And we played against a girl that plays in Utah. And I actually hit against the really tall Washington pitcher. She actually struck me out and hit me in the finger, but it was still cool to get to hit. And I struck her out a few times. So that was all super cool. But and then we got to explore Australia as well. And we met people from all different colleges that played softball, and just being able to come together and all bond over softball, playing in a different country. It was an incredible experience, and I'm so thankful that I got to do that. And if not, I don't play softball anymore, but if I ever had the opportunity to do that again, I totally would, because it was very incredible and just something I will never forget.
Well, and not just getting to play even with so many different people like you said, you did travel with a few of your teammates, but yes, in a completely different country playing against so many different people. That obviously had to have been such a great time down there. But now, you're going into your senior season. It's finally about to start. What were your first impressions of this now, again, a brand new coaching staff with head coach Megan Smith?
Yeah, well, I thought Coach Smith was more similar to Coach Stanton than the coach we had just had. And so I thought, we're going to get rolling. This is going to be a good time. We're going to get our structure the way that it needs to be, the way that Marshall softball is. And immediately from day one, I loved Coach Holub. We bonded immediately. And even now, we'll go get lunch and stuff just because, she was my coach. And throughout that process, we just made a bond of, trusting. Sometimes I would tell her from the mound that I wanted to throw a certain pitch, and she would let me. And so we just kind of formed a bond. So then, not to skip ahead, but after my career was over, we stayed in touch and have formed kind of a friendship. And we'll get lunch together and stuff. And I try to go help with, pre-COVID, I would try to go help with softball clinics and things, just to stay in touch, because I do really think that we have an incredible softball staff right now, or coaching staff right now. And I have a lot of respect for them, and I'm super thankful for them, and that they were even though I only got a year with them, I'm super thankful for them and what they did with me in my career.
Well, actually, you jumped right into talking about Maddie Holub too, because I was going to ask you, how was it working with her? Because I remember when 2019 was over, she actually told me that she wished she had you for another year just because of how special you were. Well,
thank you. I wish that if I could play softball forever, I would want to play under Coach Holub. That I just think the world of her as a pitching coach, and because she didn't try to make me anything that I wasn't. She just wanted me to be great at what I wanted, at my style. and she did things that were out of the box, and she let me try things. And if I had an idea, I would tell her, and she'd be open to it. Now, but at the same time, like while we had the bond of doing that, like she was still my coach, and I still respected her as an authority figure. But at the same time, we just created a bond of like trust, and that goes a really far way as a pitching coach and me being her pitcher. And I could not say enough good things about Maddie Holub, Coach Holub. Players call her Coach Holub, but she's my friend now. But anyway, just because there's not a scene, like in no way did she hold me back from doing anything. She only enhanced what I wanted to do. She showed me how to get where I wanted to go. She never once held me back at all.
So now you already talked about how, your first impressions with this new staff, that you really felt like things were going to get rolling. So what were your expectations of how the team was going to do heading into your senior year?
I had no idea because we had an okay season the year before, but it wasn't great. And like you said, we lost Alicia. And so we were filling those positions. And Jordan was playing outfield for us, so we lost that. Amongst other people. But
yeah.
What?
Taylor McCord and
McCord. Yes.
Great class.
Lost McCord. In Maddie's leadership, and just so I really did not know what to expect. I knew that we had good players and that we had good pieces. I just didn't know with the new coaching staff, and like you said, getting a third new coaching staff, what that was going to look like, or if we were just going to be super dysfunctional, because that's what everything had been at that point. I had no idea. I was just trusting that I could be a good leader, that I was going to be there for my teammates, and I was going to have their back, and I was going to work my hardest to earn my position and earn the coach's trust, and just focus that if I did my part, that hopefully all the pieces would fall together the rest of the way.
We'll talk a little bit about that senior year, because again, things are really starting to roll. You're number one in the circles. You're the main one getting to go out there most of the time. The wins are rolling in. The team is just absolutely shattering records. So just talk a little bit about your senior year there.
Well, foremost as a teammate, I expect a lot from my teammates, and my teammates will tell you that I was always hard on them. But also with that, I think that in that way they respected me, because they knew I expected a lot out of them. And my standard was high for them on the field and off the field, because I expected that of myself as well. And so I thought, if we're going to be Coach Stanton preached success on the field and off the field. And I really bought into that, being just a good person, a strong, confident woman. That's what Coach Stanton would say. And I bought into that. And I tried to carry that on even through my senior year. But when I look back at my senior year, I personally was not focused on the records. I was focused on the task in front of me, and I was focused, and I just remember it was just fun. I just remember having a lot of fun. It was never oh my gosh, we have to do this. It was just, when we played, we had fun, and when I got a strikeout, I did the fist pump, and then everyone would be excited, and then that's how that went. I don't remember ever paying attention. I actually didn't know that I was going to be the record books until I think you said it later that year. And then I saw it, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. But because I just had went from literally not playing, and then now my name is in the record books, in between, I don't know, in the third spot sometimes, the top three. And I'm like, what in the world? That is the craziest thing ever. So I just remember having fun and staying focused on what I was doing. I don't feel like there was ever a time of pressure.
Now, how were your emotions senior weekend, especially on that last out in that last game? You strike out Madison Palmer, one of Florida Atlantic's best players, and for the third time that day.
I didn't know that was for the third time at the time, and which was horrible because I'm pretty sure she was a senior. Well, I mean, it's horrible for her, but and it was just so bittersweet because the dot is special. Dot Hicks Field is special, and I was fine, and I was happy that we got the win and everything. And then I just didn't want to leave, and I broke down in tears. And there's a picture of me crouched down, and then Maya came and was patting me on the back and stuff. And I just remember telling her don't take this for granted. This is a special place. And I was bawling, ugly crying again. That don't take. I just told her don't take this for granted. This place is so special. But I'm glad that we went out the way that we did, getting the win there and me getting a strikeout. But not even that the strikeout is it. I mean, that's a nice way to go out. But I'm just thankful for the memories and that were there. And I remember crying on the field and Maya being there and telling her that. And I mean, if anyone's representing Marshall fully, Maya's doing a great job. So. Yeah.
203 innings of work on the year. A swing and a miss, and a strong start for the senior on senior day. First strikeout. Swing and a miss on the slapper attempt for Palmer, and that retires her 0 for 2 with 2 strikeouts as Tolbert has 4 Ks on the day, still throwing a one-hitter. On the way, and that one rings her up. Down goes Rosa, looking Tolbert with 5 strikeouts. 1 and 2 count. Pitch on the way from Tolbert. It's in there, and that's the game. Called strike number 3. Tolbert with her 6th on senior day, and Marshall run rules the out.
So now, what did it mean for you to be voted all conference that year? Like you said, you went from where you hardly played, and now here you were, and you were getting named all conference as a senior.
Well, so I always have goals. And so that was a goal that I had, but it just never had happened because I wasn't getting the opportunities or the time, or my junior year I wasn't pitching consistently enough for that, consistently at a high level, or a good enough. And then through my senior year, I finally built a name for myself to be considered for that. And it was kind of as my senior year continued, it was just so bittersweet because it was this is finally happening for me. And then and it was just trusting God and trusting the process and trusting all the work that I had put in throughout my entire life. Here we are at my senior year, and it's finally coming together. And sometimes my dad and I will talk about oh, well, what if I had another year? What would have happened? But then at the same time, it's I'm so proud of how that happened, and I would not ever wish it to happen a different way because I was climbing the ladder my senior year. I was still going up. I was still pushing the envelope of what I didn't know I could do or what I was going to do. And so seeing that, I was just I was a kid in a candy store. I just it was so overwhelming because I never had those. I never had an athlete pitcher of the week. I even had a 0 ERA one weekend and still didn't get pitcher of the week. So getting that finally after a weekend of 0 ERA and not getting that, then finally I get to the tournament and they're like pre-tournament team or third. I don't. What was it?
You were second team all conference.
Second team all conference. Yes. I was just like, wow, like here we are. We're climbing the ladder a little bit still. So that was really fun. Just like ending the ladder, like as I'm approaching the finish line, I'm still climbing.
Now, let's talk about your 2 games against number 1 seed North Texas in the conference tournament. I mean, you want to talk about clutch performance here. Game 1, they end up stranding 12 runners on base total for the game because it seemed like you and the defense, you all really buckled down at the time when you really needed to.
I know. I always had to make it interesting and like walk a few or something, but it just seemed like the ball was falling in the places that we needed to in the right time. We had to make it a little bit interesting and like get some runners on. But when we needed the out, we got the out. When I needed the strikeout, I got the strikeout. But I do remember at times it was like, come on, Abby, like find the strike zone. but it wasn't like at the same time, like it wasn't like an oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to do it. It was just like, okay, like get back to work, refocus, do your mental training. And there was a sense of confidence and a little bit of sense of like pride in that I need to show this because one of the coaches we had for a little bit, and then he transferred there or something, I don't know, but we had him for a little bit, so we knew him. One of the girls that was on the team I actually played with at Gold Coast Hurricanes when I was a sophomore in high school, and she actually wasn't playing for them. She was on the bench, but I was pitching, and I didn't get a lot of playing time on Gold Coast because she was the pitcher. And so it was kind of bittersweet that like I was beating them and she wasn't playing. And so and that's not all that mattered, but it was just like it was pretty sweet to like beat and Coach Lyon now since they're married.
Yeah.
Coach Lyon, his friend was one of the coaches, so it was kind of like we had a chip on our shoulder with something to prove because they were number 1 at the time.
Yeah. Now, game 2, it's elimination time, and again, you only have the 1-0 lead, but you hold them down for a second time. Talk about going through that game.
Well, I remember the last out because I'm pretty sure I could have thrown it right down the middle and the girl was going to call it a ball because it seemed like she didn't want to call the strike. She wanted the person to swing and miss or something. So I'm pretty sure I loaded the bases with walks, I think.
I'm trying to remember. There was at least definitely a runner at third.
I'm pretty sure that I walked several people because I was like, this lady is just not going to call it. So then I think it was a swing and a miss finally, and she called it. I know it was a strikeout.
Well, actually, the strikeout was game 1. Game 2 was the grounder to Sierra at short.
Oh, yes. Okay, so maybe I'm thinking game 1 is when I walked all the people because the lady would not call a strike.
Well,
but anyway.
They did leave 12 on base. Maybe that
But okay, yeah. So the ball hit to Sierra. I was like, oh please, which Sierra is lights out. Like she's her finesse, her games, like lights out. Love the girl to death. She's an incredible shortstop. But when we got that, I was like, oh please, this is a routine play. Just like don't mess this up. And then when it hit Allie's glove, I just remember like it was just surreal. Like it was almost like time stopped a little bit because we were going to the championship. And I remember I still watch it sometimes. Allie like throws her arms up in the air and like hits the deck. And I'm just like, did you fall? Like what happened? She's like, no, I was so excited. But yeah, that was so real. And again, like going back to like how I started with not playing at all and then like taking us then to the championship. And I like, obviously my teammates like hit and made the plays and stuff, but a big part of it was them scoring no points and like my pitching performance. And like I always need my teammates, and I'm super proud of them and their work. But I feel like I was still climbing the ladder, and like I was getting it done for them, and they were getting it done for me. And I was just really proud of what we were doing, and like coming from not playing to doing that, it was just a dream.
Tolbert winds and delivers. Taken for strike 3 on the outer half of the plate. Abigail Tolbert with back-to-back strikeouts. Next pitch, swing and a miss. Abigail Tolbert gets Clark to go down with the strikeout. 4th K of the game for Tolbert. And ends the inning, stranding 2 more runners on base and both in scoring position yet again. 1-2 pitch on the way again. Swing and a miss on the outside. And Marshall, defense coming through, will strand the bases loaded for North Texas. Two runners on, 2 away. Tolbert delivers. Swing and a miss. Abigail Tolbert gets strikeout number 8, and that ends the game. Stranding 2 more runners on base. The Thundering Herd knocks off number 1 seed North Texas. So Costello, the right-hander, will step back in. Tolbert, 0-1 pitch on the way, grounded back up the middle. Tolbert jumps up and grabs it and fires back to Harrell. Next pitch, line back up the middle. Tolbert knocks that one down with her knee, I think. Picks it up, stays with the play, gets to Harrell, and Tolbert is pumped up. Swing and a miss. Abigail Tolbert gets the strikeout, and she is fired up again. Grounder up the middle, off of Tolbert's glove. Huerta will take it, turn it, gun it to Harrell at first. Tolbert checks the wristband for the sign, looks in, 1-1 pitch on the way. Ochotnecki grounder to short. Huerta scoops it up, turns and fires to Harrell. Marshall is going to the 2019 Conference USA Tournament Championship game.
When you talk about how it felt like time just stood still, and of course we have this, what I call now an iconic photo from Adam Goo of you all, the outfield hadn't quite made it there yet, but it's celebrating. Your head's up above everybody. You're just, you know, screaming in jubilation as everybody's celebrating because, like you said, you went from, you know, hardly playing to now you are going to the championship, and it's for your hometown team. I mean, that does have to feel pretty special.
Yeah, that is my favorite picture of all time. It was special, and it was special on the field, but also some of the alumni that had won that championship were there, and like some of our old teammates that we had played with that weren't on the team anymore were there, and so like it was having the support from Marshall softball from like all generations is so special. And then going to the championship with my leadership that we've said, like, I didn't, you know, have the start that that a lot of people did. It just was such a dream and such a special moment. I feel like you could like write a book about it. Like what it just like, it was just a dream. I don't know how to explain it other than like, I couldn't have written it better.
Well, let's see if maybe you can sum it up just a little bit here because, you know, unfortunately there is heartbreak in the championship game. The team does get to go on to the National Invitational Softball Championship, but you know, looking back at your career, try to sum up, if you can, what it was like to go from that, where you have just the one inning in your freshman year, you come out as a pinch runner in your sophomore year, your junior year, as you said, you're climbing that ladder, and now your senior year, you're all conference, 28 wins. Try to sum that up just a little bit if you can.
I feel like even though people see the success from the outside, and like I feel like a lot of people remember my career from those successes, I feel like my life as a whole that story in those 4 years has kind of told my life as a whole. Everything that I start kind of starts out as me like working really hard, but maybe not reaping the benefits then. Even in medical school, that's like how it started, and I'm doing better this year. And I hope that it continues to get better. But I feel like my story those 4 years, I wouldn't change it for the world, because that instilled in me who I am today. Like, I was the leader I was, and I was the pitcher I was because I went through those first 2 years, because I had to have a strong mindset, because I had to be a good teammate first. I knew what it was like to be the bench player, and I was learning what it meant to be the starting pitcher. And I feel like with that, I got to see both sides of the game, and that made me a better person, a better player, and a better mentor for younger girls. But all in all, I would describe my career as a dream, because I don't think that I know everyone has their own career and their own story, and it's probably great that if you do all 4 years and they're all spectacular, that's probably wonderful. But I think that I probably learned more going through the grunt of it, and then like the bad parts, and then being at the good parts. I feel like that's more special, and that's just who I am as a person, and I'm thankful for that. That's what my career was, and I wouldn't take that back for a second. And if I had to do it again, I wouldn't change it.
Now, another thing that you achieved in your career was on the academic side. Just talk about trying to balance a pretty difficult major with being a Division I athlete and keeping a high GPA like you did, because you were a 3-time NFCA academic All-American.
So I majored in biology and then had a minor in chemistry and psychology. Yes. And so how I did that was everyone had their lights off sleeping on the bus, and I would have my light on and be really annoying to everybody that I had my light on. And I would study all the bus trips way into the night. And then, no, but really, I always had my light on. I was always studying. I was studying before the games. I was studying after the games when I was exhausted. And my teammates would always give me a hard time. And like looking back, I maybe should have like not studied as much, just spend time with them. But ultimately, I couldn't have gotten where I am now without doing that. So like girls will ask me like about school and studying, and I just like, you have to pick. Like, you have to pick what's important to you. And I didn't do some social things because school was more important to me. And so, I mean, I met people, I had friends, but like I might have missed a dinner, or I might have missed something, I don't know, a social outing or something because I was studying. But that's what I chose to do, and that's what mattered to me. And I feel like as a Division I, as an athlete in general, if you want to play in college, like you have a decision to make between 3 things. You can be social, you can be socializing, academics, or softball, or whatever your sport is, and you can pick 2 of the 3. You can't have 3 of the 3. So I picked softball and school, and I socialized when I could, and if it didn't fit, then it didn't fit.
I definitely remember some nights on the bus where I'm sitting there working on video or something, and I turn around and go, I wonder if anybody else is awake. Or back there, that's got to be Tolbert.
Yeah.
Got to be her. She's still studying. But, so what were some of your best memories either on or off the field?
Well, one thing, I didn't know it was so wonderful at the time, but like living with your teammates, like your class of people, those are the best memories. Not just like one memory in particular, but just like you get to, like, we would come back and like complain about something or like laugh about something that happened. And at the time you're just like, going through sports and you're like so sore, you're so tired, and you're all talking about that. But then like now I'm like, that was such a good time. Like, I got to go home and be with like the best people, like my best friends, the people that I played with on the field. Like, that was so fun. I wish I could do that now, which I live with my best friends now, but my softball best friends then. So that, and then, but also like getting to go through life with them at the same time, like whether obviously softball, but like the Emileigh Cooper thing, we had each other, whether it was like a boy or social, whatever was going on, like they were right there, like right next door. And a memory.
Well,
I don't know. I'm having a hard time.
Are there any crazy stories that you think about and they just still make you laugh?
I'm sure that there are. I cannot think of them right now. Having a hard time thinking of them. My sophomore year, we dressed up a lot and had like different costume days, and those were pretty fun. But I can't think of like, oh no, I know. Wheezy once wasn't at weights. She wasn't there before weights, and we got in Alicia's car. Well, some of us got in the back of Alicia's car because we had to figure out which apartment she was in because she lived with swimmers, I think. So we weren't totally sure which apartment she was in. So they went over to the village and got Wheezy and got her clothes and came back before weights. And we almost, I don't think we got away with it, but we did get there in time. But somehow I think Coach Brown found out. But it was probably 6 a.m. Wait, so like we were running around Huntington trying to find Wheezy at like 5:40 in the morning. So that, and I also remember one time at 12 at night, Coach Stanton called us and said, "Hey, come tarp the field." And I'm like, I'm asleep. Like, but no, we got out in our pajamas and we all tarped the field because it was raining. Those are a little bit more of crazier story, like not crazy, but like, just.
Sometimes it doesn't always have to be something that's just absolutely out of mind bizarre, but it can be little things like that can just make you sit there and laugh. And because I definitely remember some other late calls of we need to go tarp the field. And I had to be the one there to unlock, let everybody in. And I'm out there trying to tarp 2 in the middle of the night, hopefully right before it starts pouring. But now that it's an all-turf field, we really don't have to worry about that anymore.
Right. And I also remember one of the first weeks that I was a freshman, we had the mile was like a huge thing at the time. So we had ran the mile a few times, and then we went to Ritter Park, and there were 2 teams, and we had a partner that we had to beat, and then on top of beating the partner, we had to beat our previous time. And so if we didn't beat our partner, we had to run on top of the mile. We had to run another half of a mile, and then if we also didn't beat our previous time, we had to run another half of a mile. Thankfully, I accomplished both of those. But I remember thinking, oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, those can always be some fun workouts too. But so looking back on all of it, what does it mean for you growing up a Marshall fan, being a native of West Virginia, going from a camper to then playing for the Herd and helping to really push the success forward even more of this program, of your hometown team, and now also having young ladies look up to you?
It's a dream come true. It really is. And I think that's the only way that I can fully encompass it. But that's what I love. Like even though like I don't play anymore, but I love feeding into softball and little girls as much as I can. And the other day, one of my little sister's moms sent me a picture, and she was wearing my jersey to college day or something. And I was like, that is so special that someone would think so much of me to do that. And there's another little girl that I have helped with pitching, and she wears my number. And I'm just like, that's so special that like I was just doing what I loved, and because I loved it so much, someone thought enough of me to like do that. And I don't take any of that for granted at all. Like that is so special to me, and I could like cry, like I could just like cry happy tears that like my career meant so much to someone that it like they thought that I deserved for them to wear my number or the number that I wore. But my career and all of that is just a dream come true. Like if I always think about like if little Abby could meet big Abby, would she be proud? And yeah, she would be thrilled. And but that's like even not just with softball but in life, like that's what I think about. Like little Abby always looked up to like older people and like, would she be proud of what you're doing? And like, that's what I think about when I'm like thinking about life.
I just thought of this one, so I have to ask you real quick. How did you pick the number that you did? I mean, 00 is not exactly something you see very often. We really only had Rebecca Gamby wear that, and she was a senior in 2012. So I kind of, where did that come from for you?
I actually always wore that number. I'm pretty sure I had like T-ball T-shirts like before I even got into jerseys with that number on it. So that was kind of always a thing. I actually wore it in basketball too. So I didn't have like different, like that was always my number, and then I just like found a different number if that one wasn't available, because like you said, it's not always the like most popular number. Sometimes I didn't have that jersey for certain things, but I'm pretty sure that I have like T-ball shirts with that number on it, so it kind of just stuck.
It just kind of you grow up playing, right? So now finally, is there anything else that you would like to share with the viewers, you know, whether it be any advice or any other part of your journey?
I would say I think that, well, trust the process, but also be willing to be uncomfortable. What is it? There's like a saying, be comfortable with being uncomfortable or something like that.
Coach Stanton said that so many times.
Yeah, well, I find myself saying more and more things that she says because they are true. Like if there's anything I learned from Coach Stanton, it would be like life stuff. Like it did apply to softball, but like more so it applied to life. Well, is what I'm finding out as I go along. But I'm just thankful for what Marshall softball did to me. I'm thankful for the hard times that brought the good times. And there's not a piece of it or a moment that I would change, because it took me to where I ended up. And I am just so proud and thankful and blessed that all of that happened, and it happened the way that it was supposed to.
Well, Abby, I thank you so much for joining me on the MUSB Dugout. I'm so glad that you got to come on and be able to tell this story, because it's one that I always wanted to hear. You know, like you said, from the way that it went, just kept on climbing the ladder. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, Abigail Tolbert, another in-state success story from young fan to becoming the 6th pitcher in MUSB history with 20 or more wins in a season, with 28 in 2019, 4th most all-time in program history, and a big piece in the story of building the success of her hometown team, and of course, on her way to a medical degree. Again, thank you.
Thank you.